Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
All right, we're excited to welcome to the show Bryan Miles, the CEO and co-founder of Belay. Bryan has had a lot of success growing that company and helping others to grow their companies. So excited to talk with you today, Bryan.
Rex, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you give us a quick introduction to what you do and kind of your background and how you got started with Belay?
Sure. So back in 2010, my wife and I left some really nice jobs to start a virtual assistant company. And over time, since 2010 or over 8 years now, we've grown to add 2 more other services, virtual bookkeeping and virtual webmaster services. All of our folks are based here in the United States. Currently, we have a team of over 700 people that represent our clients, and mostly in the United States and Canada. And I absolutely love what I do. I love helping clients get the relief they need from an administrative background. We do all the things that no one likes to do, all the unsexy stuff. And we do provide a lot of relief to worn out leaders with really great people. So it's a joy to do what I get to do every day.
Well, I think what's really fun about what you do is that you don't just see the way you're growing your company, you see the way others are growing their company. And whether it's people in-house or people that they're outsourcing to through your company, I'm sure you see a lot of those interactions. I think we're going to benefit from some of your learnings today. So let's dive in here. The first principle that you kind of want to walk through was this idea of saying no more than saying yes. Can you break that down for us, give an idea what you mean?
You bet. So I'm a sales guy at heart. I love sales because I think just that the best salespeople in the world, all they do is simply help people. But the problem is salespeople will oftentimes, and sales organizations want to say yes a lot because they have a quota or they've got numbers to meet or so forth. But if you're looking at long-term, a viable brand, you want to say no more than you say yes. And what that means, to say no, you've got to actually know who your ideal prospect is. And to do that, you've really got to work hard with your marketing team to really identify who's that ideal target, meaning is it a certain particular industry? Is it a certain size of revenue? Is it a certain avatar of a particular prospect? And really knowing those things so that you can say no to a lot of things that would distract or pull away from your brand and say yes to those that are the more obvious pick for building your business.
That's great. And do you have any advice for those? Because obviously at the top levels, let's say you're talking to a founder of a small startup, this is easy. You can explain to them, look, you've got to have a vision, you got to stick to it. And they've got their hand on every marketing asset and every sales opportunity, and they're very involved. As those organizations grow, how do you suggest that they communicate that in terms of maybe their policies or the way they talk to their employees about being willing to say no more than saying yes?
I think it's hard, if you have to go back to a bigger reason for why you would say no and remind employees, especially frontline employees, of why we would say no to particular prospects or to certain revenue. And ultimately, what I've found is true in organization, and where I've coached this in other organizations or friends that have businesses, when they've said no on a consistent basis to say yes to the right things, their business has actually grown faster. But it's very counterintuitive. So it's important that, especially frontline employees or folks that are mid-level managers, that you're articulating the real why for why we would say no to a particular revenue set and really go after that, which would enhance your brand. And that's just something that's learned over time that you really, frankly, got to continue to say or communicate on.
Yeah, that's great. That makes complete sense. Now, as you're growing that organization, you're trying to communicate these things. Ultimately, you can't own everything. You can't be responsible or touch every sales opportunity, every marketing asset. And you suggest something unique as far as delegation, that you look at delegation in a different light than most people who just delegate tasks. Do you want to break that down?
Yeah, I learned this early on when we started our organization, that I just made the assumption that we had hired adults and that adults would do the job. And so for us, if they're adults, which we hired, then we should be able to delegate a result to them and not the task. Because if they're adults and they're maybe more qualified than I am, then they'll probably get to the result quicker and better, and they'll know the task to do. Now, we obviously provide resources and we're there for them if they need to beat something up to get the result. But what we found is an employee knits their heart to a result way better than they do 55 tasks. And they take greater ownership when they know the result that's expected of them. So for us, we want a team full of people that were results oriented up and down the organization in Belay, so that we can execute like crazy. But it really just starts with them communicating, look, here's the result I trust you with. And we'll work backwards into the task, and you'll figure all that out because you're an adult and you're awesome at what you do. But really, we're going to celebrate the result with you.
It sounds like you have kind of a running theme here of everyone understanding what the ultimate goal is. And I know this is kind of deviating here, but is there a way that you guys do that in your organization or that you've seen successful in others?
Well, I've seen it successful in other organizations. I'll tell you how we've seen it become very portable inside our organization and very pervasive is this. We've basically said that the results in your area or your role, they really roll up to our mission. And our mission, while incredibly important to us, it really hooks into the mission and the vision, which is really, for Belay, it's that our vision is to help others achieve their vision. Now that sounds so simple, but truly, when you look at our services and what we provide, we're helping others execute on what they're trying to accomplish inside their organization. Yeah. So those results that day to day they're achieving, or weekly or quarterly, whatever, ultimately prop up our mission, but also the vision of what we're trying to accomplish at Belay.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
And a good leader, and a really good leader, not to interrupt, a good leader will never lose sight of that and constantly articulate it.
Today's growth story is about Lilliard Insurance Agency. The biggest challenge for one of their B2B sales agents was finding contact information for businesses that fit his target profile. He was running out of time to meet his monthly sales goal, so he turned to simple internet searches. Too often, the information he found was old and unreliable. He was spending too much valuable selling time looking for email addresses and phone numbers that turned out to be inaccurate and unusable anyway. The rep, Sam Hoover, heard about Sales Genie from his manager, and that's when everything changed. Sam started using Sales Genie's powerful database access to build targeted lists and get the contact information he needed to work new leads. He was able to profile his best customers to find prospects that looked just like them. He even used Sales Genie to find ways to reach them with direct mail, email, and online marketing campaigns. Sam immediately increased his monthly sales production by 200%. Can Sales Genie help you drive similar sales results? Probably. Head over to salesgenie.com/B2B to get a demo and a free customer analysis. All right, let's get back into the show.
Well, and that comes back to a point that you made before we hit record here about sharing the why more often than the other details, right? There's the what, the how, the when. How important is that for that leadership to continually be communicating that? And then does it relate back to how you talk to customers?
For sure. Well, I think in particular, the why inside your organization with your employees or your team, the why trumps the what, the when, the how every time. Because when you're not around, if they know the why, they know how to fill in the blank. But if they don't know the why, they don't know the destination they're supposed to arrive at. So they can't do the other things very well. And a poor leader does that. A poor leader tells them everything but doesn't give them the great why or the destination. A good leader, a great leader over time will say, this is why this is important. This is why I'm asking you to do this. This is why you're on this call. This is why you're on this project, whatever. So that the why, the big why, is there when you're not around. And I think that you can even, especially from a client management or account management standpoint, you can also articulate the why to your clients as well, saying, hey, this is why this is important globally, and this is what we're marching to. And we want to make sure that we're in alignment with what your why is with our why, so that we're arriving at the same place together.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny. I'm taking notes here for myself, and hopefully the listeners are as well, for their business, but also for my personal life. I've got 3 little kids, and holy cow, what an important principle. Communicating that why, like, look, this is why we want you to do these things. And then ultimately it helps to teach them a greater principle. That's great.
Yeah. I meet a lot of leaders that I'm really frankly surprised that when you ask them like where they're heading, they're only looking out just a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a couple of months. They're not aiming at a particular deep why that's out there. And the problem with that is you're not going a straight line towards it. You're kind of weaving in and out and zigzagging, and instead you need to put a huge why out there for where you're headed. And then you can go in as straight as line as possible to get there. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Now, because you said it's not always a straight line, things are changing. You've got to adapt. You've got to figure, this principle of like, look, we know where we are today. We know where we want to go, but it's not always a clean path there. Things are always changing. How do you guys in particular communicate that change to your employees, for example?
We just, as best I can, I just remind every employee that works for Belay that change is a constant. If you want a significant set of stability, then go work for a Fortune 500, and you may find it there or not. For us, we're a growing organization. We're scaling up, and we've come from the days of startup and bootstrap to where we are today with budgets and teams and so forth. But the reality is change has always been part of our business, and for the right reasons. We don't change for the sake of change. We change because we want to be better with our services. We want to enhance the experience for our clients and frankly, for those who work for us as well. So we want them to embrace it, so much so that one of our core values inside of Belay is what we call vision. And it's just real simple. And we tie that off to, we refuse to accept the status quo. So if we're an organization that refuses to accept the status quo, what does that mean? We're all about change for the right reasons. So I think that, and I think that's true really of even a nonprofit or for-profit. Change is inevitable if you want to stay in business long term and you want to succeed. So I think that the more that you can help your employees really embrace change versus see this as, another thing or another initiative we have to get through. But no, this is really why we succeed and how we grow. Then I think they'll start to appreciate change all the more.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if you had to guess, and I'm putting you on the spot here with this question, what percentage of the change that happens in your organization it comes from kind of the ground up from those employees day to day, realizing that there's something that could be done better? And what percentage is like top down, hey, as the CEO and co-founder, that we need to be improving these figures? Is there a split somewhere there?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably 30% from the bottom up and probably 70% from the bottom down. And a lot of that is, they're not necessarily... They may have ideas that I think impact change for our business, but the key leaders in our business, the ones that are out there in the market that are hearing what the market's saying, should be the ones beating that up internally to say, should we do this? Should we change? Should we add this? Should we delete this? Those are the things that are worthwhile, the leadership team. But we do, and the other thing too, in our business, we've gone from being a small startup to now a medium-sized corporation. Mm-hmm. We do want the ideas where our frontline employees who are touching our clients every day, they're coming to us and saying, hey, we think we should do this. What about this idea? We welcome that. And sometimes those things are significant and they impact big change for the right reasons in our business. So I think early on when you're a startup, there's kind of a couple key or core leaders and they're kind of, this is what we do, and we pivot, we change and so forth. Well, as the employee count grows, all of that idea, that massive change can't come from a singular place inside your business. It's got to be shared by really the whole organization.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, this has been great, Bryan. If people want to learn more about Belay or more about yourself, where can they find you online?
Sure. There's 2 places they can go. First is belaysolutions.com. They can learn all about our services and what we do and how we serve our clients. And the other one is I just recently wrote a book called Virtual Culture, and the website for that is virtualculturebook.com. And it's basically how our organization, we grew to size without ever having an actual office and how we built our company culture around that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Excellent. I know a lot of folks are going to be interested in that and potentially interested in those services. That's great. Bryan, thank you for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity, Rex. It's been great.
Becoming a thought leader doesn't just happen. If you want to build a strong personal brand and extend your reach online and offline, you need a plan. Want help developing yours? Check out Impact Summit. This one-day event is bringing together best-selling authors, professional athletes, influential CEOs, and emerging entrepreneurs, all for one purpose: to equip you to lead, influence, and inspire. Whether you're looking to build a lasting legacy with your business or extend the reach of your brand, Impact Summit speakers will share inspiring stories and practical lessons to help you on your way. Did we mention a session on launching and growing a podcast? You guessed it, you'll hear from Sweetfish Media's own James Carberry during that session. You won't want to miss all of these influencers and leaders coming together in Salt Lake City on October 13th. Ready to learn more? Check out influencerinc.co/Impact Summit. B2B Growth listeners can get 15% off the price of their tickets for this event by using the promo code SWEETFISH, SWEETFISH. So use that code, get your tickets today, and get ready to grow your brand and your influence at Impact Summit 2018.